All right, if you're gearing up for those PSU HR exams, you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say the old labor laws were, well, a maze. So today, we're going to hand you the map for one of the biggest changes yet, the Code on Social Security 2020. And listen, this isn't just some minor update. It's a complete rethink of how India protects its workforce, and if you're in HR, you absolutely need to get this. So you might be asking, why the huge overhaul? I mean, why change everything? Well, to really get the new code, you first have to understand what was broken. The old system was this tangled web of laws, many from a totally different era. It was complex, it was inconsistent, and frankly, it just wasn't built for the economy we live in today. And this slide, it pretty much sums up the whole idea perfectly. We're moving from chaos to clarity. I mean, can you imagine trying to navigate more than 29 different labor laws? It's a nightmare. The reform brings all of that down to just 4 simple codes. But it's more than that. The whole philosophy has shifted. It's not about protecting a small group of workers anymore. The new goal is much, much bigger, creating a real social safety net for everyone. Okay, so here's our game plan for today. We'll start with the fragmented past, see how 9 laws became one, check out who's covered now, dive into the changes for core benefits, look at the new funding structures, and then we'll wrap it all up with the key takeaways you've got to know. All right, let's dive right in with that fragmented past. Because the main reason for this massive change was a huge, glaring gap in the old system. Now, I want you to just let this number sink in for a second. India has a workforce of about 500 million people, and under the old system, over 90% of them had zero formal social security. That means no provident fund, no health insurance, nothing. Think about that. How can an economy really grow when so many people are that vulnerable? And that is the core problem this new code is designed to fix. Okay, so that brings us to the heart of the code on Social Security. Instead of trying to juggle all those different laws, the idea was simple. Let's create one single unified framework. The number to remember here is 9. That's right, this one code takes 9 separate, often complicated laws and rolls them all into one single streamlined framework for social welfare. Okay, for all of you studying for your exams, you're going to want to pay close attention to this slide. This is the complete list of the 9 acts that have now been folded into the new code. You'll spot the big ones, right, like the EPF and ESI acts, but you'll also see more specific laws covering things like maternity benefits, gratuity, and even welfare for construction and city workers. And this whole consolidation thing, it's the key. It makes compliance way simpler for businesses, and more importantly, it makes it much, much easier for employees to actually access their benefits. So this big consolidation effort really sets the stage for the next major step. And this might just be the most revolutionary part of the whole code, how it completely redefines who is covered by Social Security. It's all about bringing our laws up to speed with the 21st century economy. So, for the very first time in Indian law, we have an official definition of a gig worker. Think about freelancers, independent consultants, people who work on a project-by-project basis. Just having this definition is a huge deal because it finally acknowledges the millions of people who are pretty much invisible to the old system. And then, right alongside gig workers, the code also defines platform workers. Now, this is a really important distinction. See, a gig worker could find work anywhere, but a platform worker specifically uses a digital app or platform to connect with customers, like your Uber driver or the person who delivers your food from Zomato. And by defining them separately, the law can start to create social security schemes that are actually tailored to how they work. And this visual really gets to the heart of it all. The key word here is universalization. The whole point is to stretch this protective umbrella over everyone, from folks in the massive unorganized sector all the way to our modern gig and platform workers. It's a huge, huge shift toward a much more inclusive system. All right, so we've talked about who is now covered. Let's move on to the what. Because the code doesn't just add more people, it also makes some really critical changes to existing benefits that you're probably familiar with, like gratuity, ESI, and EPF. So first up, let's talk gratuity. With so many people now working on contracts or for a fixed term, the old rules were just becoming a real barrier for a lot of them. Well, the new code tackles this problem head on. And here it is, a massive change. This is all about gratuity eligibility for fixed-term employees, or FTEs. Forget the old 5-year rule, that's gone for them. Now, an FTE is eligible for gratuity after just 1 year of service. This is a total game changer for the millions of people working on short-term contracts. Okay, next up, ESI, which is the Employees' State Insurance. Now, you might know that ESI benefits used to be limited to only certain parts of the country. The new code just smashes through those old barriers. It's making coverage a national thing. The goal is to have ESI facilities available in all 740 districts across India. That's everywhere. And the expansion doesn't just stop with geography. As an HR professional, these next details are crucial for you. First, coverage is now mandatory for any place involved in hazardous work, even if they only have one single employee. And second, smaller businesses, those with fewer than 10 employees, can now choose to join the ESI scheme voluntarily. And finally, let's touch on the Employees Provident Fund, or EPF. The good news here is that the rules for when it applies have been made so much simpler. That old system where it only applied to certain industries that were listed on some schedule, that's gone. Now the rule is super simple and clear. If a business has 20 or more employees, the EPF rules apply, period. Okay, so this brings up a really important question. If we're bringing in all these gig and platform workers, how on earth are their benefits going to be funded? I mean, they don't have a traditional employer, right? Well, the code introduces a brand new, really innovative mechanism just for this. This slide breaks down the pretty clever funding model they've come up with. So, step 1, the aggregators, we're talking about the platforms like Uber or Swiggy. They now have to contribute between 1% and 2% of their annual turnover. And that's key, it's their total revenue, not their profit. That money goes into a central fund. Step 2, that contribution creates a dedicated social security fund that the government manages. And then, step 3, that fund is used to create schemes for these workers, things like life and disability insurance, health benefits, and even maternity benefits. It's a really innovative solution to a very modern problem, don't you think? Wow, okay, we have covered a ton of ground. So let's boil it all down to the absolute must-know points, the things you have to walk away with, especially for those exams. Look, if you only remember a handful of things from this whole explainer, make it these 4. First, the big picture goal is universalization. The plan is to cover all 500 million workers in India. Second, the inclusion of gig and platform workers. This is a historic first, finally bringing them into the Social Security fold. Third, remember that new gratuity rule for FTEs. The eligibility has dropped from 5 years all the way down to just 1 year. And fourth, Pan-India ESI. The employees' state insurance benefits are now being rolled out to every single district in the country. These 4 points are really the cornerstones of the new Social Security Code. And that just about wraps it up. But I want to leave you with a final question to think about. You see, this code is so much more than just a new set of rules. It's a fundamental change in our country's direction. So as we move towards this goal of universal Social Security, how is that going to transform India's relationship with work and with its workforce? What does this really mean for the economic security of millions and millions of people? That's the big story that we'll all be watching unfold. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.